afraid of some change. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in.
As we don't have any children with us today, I invite our child care and religious education persons to stay with us if they like. And you settle yourself, and we will now talk about the inexplicable, the spectrum of disbelief. Today we will explore some ideas of the boundaries of belief. To start, let me say that I am a humanist, so I think most religions arise from human society rather than divine origins. I'm mostly an atheist. I hedge a little bit because there have been a few events in my life that seem truly inexplicable and hard to put in a frame of reason or coincidence. I have twice heard a voice in my head and once seen an apparition. I think that we Unitarian Universalists like to think of ourselves as being pretty rational or even skeptical. I think that in many cases, our response when faced with something inexplicable will be to say, there's a reason for that, we just don't know it yet. This attitude carries us along pretty nicely in many situations. Let's imagine a fairly ordinary occasion, such as we run into someone we haven't seen for years. Then, while talking, we realize we last met on the same exact day of the year. Our initial puzzlement may be replaced by some reasoning like, the last time we met, he was here for a family gathering, so probably that's the same reason he's here today. But as the unlikeliness of an event grows, or its perceived cause and effect are so rare that our experiences can't contain it, we find ourselves in murkier territory. Let's say that the person that you met again on the same day as years ago was also there for a very specific reason, to bring back the ashes of his mother to a place where she wanted them scattered. And you are standing there with an urn of ashes of your mother. At this point, your ability to make sense of what is happening begins to pull apart. You are dealing with triple layers of coincidence, which puts it in the realm of the old type Ripley's Believe It or Not stories. Calculations ensue in your brain. Mother has died. Plus, mother wishes for ashes to be scattered at a specific location. Plus, the same day of the year. If we had the time and resources to trace all the relevant factors in both people's lives, we might be able to come up with a logically complete explanation for the event. Mathematically, it's doable if we have enough data to make certain kinds of assumptions. A single additional fact might make everything snap into place. Perhaps the location where these people are meeting is the lakeshore, and the two people are in families which have been neighbors at the shore for many years. Then we can make a leap and think, we understand it, it's not really that strange. We can even construct a plausible basis for a cause-effect relationship. However, in cases like this, if we don't have enough facts to establish plausibility, we humans are prone to think, if all these things happen together, there must be a single reason that encompasses them all. For some people, this would be termed fate or destiny, and they'd want to find a reason those two people were brought together at that time and that place. Perhaps they will rekindle their friendship and be buddies for the rest of their lives. If, rather than a renewed friendship, something really fortuitous follows, such as finding out that one friend is a perfect match for a blood marrow donor for a relative of the other, then there will be a very human tendency to ascribe to the event a miraculous quality. Most religions use the term miraculous to describe a beneficial event that is beyond the explanation in ordinary human terms. The connection between a cause and effect can't be discerned, but the result is something wonderful. So how do you feel about such coincidences? Does it start to seem like things happen for a reason? Or is it more, this was meant to be? As I have described these scenarios, did you find yourself wanting more and more to believe that there was a benevolent influence at work? Were you experiencing a sense of greater hope and a desire that some force was operating beyond the event of the people concerned? If you personally knew someone whose life had been saved by an unlikely coincidence, would it change your belief system regarding the meaning of daily occurrences? What I described was a fictional set of events that built up to a point where the meaninglessness of multiple coincidences starts to take on meaning for most of us. I won't go further on that theme. It's clear that at some point most of us begin to wonder if something is going on that is bigger than us. Let's look at a different kind of event. Seeing ghosts, hearing voices, and feeling unseen people. Years ago, when I was in my 20s, I got a call telling me that my grandmother had died. My recollection is that afterwards, I saw my grandmother appear in front of me in full color, just like she was standing at some distance across the yard. She was vividly there, but was brief, and then she was gone. While I was very surprised at this event, I had no trouble in deciding that it was a mental projection caused by strong emotion, and I wasn't disturbed by it. There's a lot of neuroscience that can explain how that vision arose and why it seemed so real to me. Emotions, we have found in science, can cause parts of our brain to react exactly as if the real phenomena were occurring. This can be seen in our brains when the right scanners and stimuli are used. The visual cortex, the auditory nerves, and other parts of the brain will activate as if we were experiencing a physical event. If I had seen this vision before I knew of my grandmother's death, it would be harder to explain, but still possible in terms of neuroscience and psychology. With apologies to anyone who has suffered a recent bereavement, it is not uncommon for grieving people to see a person who has died almost everywhere they look. The simplest turn of a head, a way of walking, a voice in a crowd, a scent or a gesture can revive the person to us so that for a fleeting moment they are present again. It is harder to think that it is just a mental phenomenon if we both see and hear or even feel a person who cannot physically be present. I have not experienced this myself, but I know others who have. There are many who will tell you of visits of people who are no longer alive at night or even in broad daylight. There are many people who come to believe that there is an unseen world around us that can, in certain circumstances, become accessible to us so that we can communicate with the dead or even with those not yet born. Some people who are of a scientific background may propose that this is a parallel universe that will be explainable one day by extreme physics. Many people think of it as a spirit world that can be entered into with specific forms of incantation, induced dream states, hypnosis, meditation, or the use of specific mind-altering drugs. An alternate universe, a world beyond our physical senses, this is believable by many people based on experience. Direct experience is the key here, rather than second-hand knowledge or hearsay. Being told of such things or reading about them doesn't give rise to the same firmness of conviction. I myself, when I heard a voice that obviously could not come from anyone or anything around me, due to the words that were being spoken being directed at me personally, had a tremendous physical response. I felt a bolt of adrenaline shoot through me, but it wasn't either fight or flight. It was, pay attention, this is a special message for you. In one case, it was a positive message about a relationship, and I chose to think of it as a real directive. In the other case, it was a starkly negative message, and after some deep inner contemplation, I chose to disregard it. There were no bad consequences in either case. I personally don't need to be sure what made me hear a voice in each case, but I am sure that my fundamental personality made me choose to accept the positive and refuse the negative. In the most extreme cases, some people have visions or hear voices, and they become convinced that they are conduits of energy or communication with otherworldly states. They may claim to be in direct communication with a spirit, acting as a medium, or they may claim to be a prophet, receiving messages directly from a god. Take your mental attitude now. As I talked about things that seem to have a rational explanation, did you find that you were generally comfortable? As I began to talk about more uncommon experiences, did you start to second guess what I was saying? At some point, did you mentally throw up your hands and say, "That's nonsense"? Think about the point at which that happened to you. Was it when I mentioned a medium? Or when I mentioned a prophet? The culmination of my inquiry into your degree of disbelief will be to take you to the heart of a woods for a few minutes. We'll have a little guided meditation if you will make yourselves comfortable. Take a few calming breaths and settle down. Imagine yourself in a pleasant wood in dappled sunlight, sitting on a rock. Now, as you're sitting there, you become aware that everything has become very still. The wind doesn't move in the trees. No bird sings. No insects buzz. A great silence surrounds you. Now, in this silence, you sense that everything is brightening. A glow seems to emanate from everywhere simultaneously, and you feel elated and calm at the same time. A tremendous joy is filling you, and you feel so connected to everything in the universe that there is no physical boundary between you and the light and the air and the trees. Your mind is clear. You feel a great sense of purpose and energy. It seems that you have never been more sure that you are completely safe and totally loved, and you are meant to do great and good things in the world. Slowly, this light dissipates, and you become aware again of your skin, the air, the sounds around you. As you regain awareness, you are still full of calm energy and a sense of high purpose. Find your way back to this time and place. Now that you're back from this little mental journey, consider that this is the type of experience that a number of deeply religious people have had, sometimes in nature, sometimes at home, sometimes at church or temple. For some of these people, this may occur numerous times. Books about religious experience and personal testimonies from different faiths around the world have recorded similar ecstatic states. In some cases, people have experienced being out of their bodies and observing themselves from a great height. Some people have had glowing personas appear to them or heard glorious singing. For the religious, it is a sign that a God is working in them. If something like this happened to you, what would you think? Would you be satisfied to take a materialistic scientific view that it can all be explained once we know enough about the mind or the universe and laws of physics? Would you think that there's probably a realm of events that elude our physical senses, but that are just as real as what we experience? Or would you think that there had indeed been a connection to something so exalted that your only way to express it is in terms of pure spirit? My methods have been simple, but my point is a little more subtle. You sometimes like to put hard walls around what we will believe, and we may like to scoff at people who seem to us to be gullible or misguided because they believe in miracles or experiences that we don't believe in. But given a personal experience, our beliefs may shift and our boundary of disbelief may move. Consider the person who believes that they can sense or communicate with someone who is no longer with us physically. When you hear their beliefs, if you can't believe them yourself, pause a minute before your skepticism overtakes you. Ask yourself what comfort or hope this belief provides, and see whether you can set aside your own reaction to hear what the other person is telling you with compassion and sympathy. Listen beyond the words with an open heart and find the place where the person's truth arises. You may not be able to believe the same intellectually, but you can provide an empathetic ear. The next time that you meet someone who has, by personal experience, felt they are saved or called or given a new life, please set aside your assumptions about their credibility for a minute. I'm not talking about someone who's telling you what they think they ought to believe due to the religion they espouse. There are many people who have experienced a spirit or presence in their lives which is the foundation of an unshakable personal belief, regardless of any rational explanation to the contrary that they ever encounter. In fact, the less likely it is, the more exceptional it appears, the more firm the belief will tend to become. There's the saying, "I know in my heart that it's true." This is a real and powerful emotion and should be considered for its impact in the person's life. When someone who has had an experience that was truly transformative in their lives, you will never be able to reason them out of it. If you're not of the same belief, how do you respond when you meet such a person? What validates their experience for you? Does the person seem truly harmonious with their life and belief system? ready and willing to do almost anything for others? Does their behavior give evidence of their beliefs put into action for the greater good? If so, then you may have met a person for whom your skepticism is entirely beside the point. And regardless of differences of theology, accepting them where they are along their journey of belief may be a true expression of our principle of free and responsible search for truth and meaning. May it be so. And now we will have first the closing song, and then we have closing words. If you will pay attention to your insert. So the closing song, if you will stand as you are able, is Be Ours a Religion in the Teal book. This is a very short, one verse. We're going to do it twice. All right, our closing reading is in this book. If you will join me in reading it in unison, number 459. This is the mission of our faith, to teach the fragile art of hospitality, to revere both the critical mind and the generous heart, to prove that diversity need not mean divisiveness, and to witness to all that we must hold the whole world in our hands. And now we will extinguish the chalice. If you will join hands. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Thank you.
Join us for worship every Sunday at 10 a.m. at the Unitarian Universalist Church of Canandaigua, a welcoming congregation. We are located at 3024 Cooley Road, 4 miles west of South Main Street, Canandaigua, just north of the intersection with Routes 5 and 20. Look for the blue signs just before the turn. Your comments about this program or questions about the church are welcome at 585-396-1370 or at our website, www.canandaiguauu.org. Producer and editor, Daniel Brigham.